Adam Doueihi, the man, the myth, the legend. He was averaging in the high 50s, but he's been moved to fullback and he didn't look happy about it. Do you keep Adam Doueihi is the question everyone's asking. And Biz, I'm going to ask you that one right now.
If you've got another half you can play, I would sell him. I do not. I've got Cleary and then only Trundle and Katoa behind them. So I have to keep Dewey this week because there's no real other halves I'm that interested in getting in this week. We're going to cover alternative halves for Dewey at the back end of this video. But look, let's just think about this for a second. Dewey, he's a really good scorer at 5'8". Averages about 60, 61 when he plays 5'8". He tackles, he kicks the ball, he kicks goals, he runs the ball. That's great. Now, moving to fullback, the first thing I noted is he's just not, he doesn't seem a natural fullback. He doesn't track the ball in attack. His support play looked lackadaisical. He honestly didn't look like he wanted to be there. I'm not too sure he's happy about being moved to fullback. He's the type of player I feel that could have a bit of a fuss when he's not playing where he wants. And he's not lightning quick or anything. He is strong, but I just think the loss of the tackle-based stat where he averaged about 20 tackles a game. So if that drops to 3 or 4, that's 15 points gone. Meters gained, he averages about 160 at fullback and then about 120 at 5'8". So he's only gaining 4 points there. And in terms of attacking stats, look, it's the Tigers. Unless they sort something out, there's not going to be a huge boost in attacking stats. And like I said, he's not exactly the fastest guy. So, look, he's averaged 40 at fullback before. I think 45 to 50 is what he could average at best. But, yeah, I would be selling.
Yeah, it's a big move. It's a big loss for him. I mean, he goes from the scoring profile of – he's got a bit of a Cam Munster scoring profile when he plays at 6, in that he runs the ball a lot, he breaks a lot of tackles, he's involved in a lot of attack, and he kicks the ball a ton, and is involved in defense as well. So he goes from that profile to – it's hard to find a comparison for him right now. I'm thinking like a Josh Dugan, which is a bit vintage, but he's kind of in that mold where he's still a good ball runner, but he's like, if you look at a lot of the support plays, they're scoring those tries because they're too fast to be caught from behind. And Dewey isn't that guy who can loom up like that. He doesn't have the endurance to loom up that like a Gutho does, for example. So he's not going to score those support running tries. And I don't think he's going to get the ball as much as he did before. One thing that was raised to me was that potentially he's going to get the ball in that better attacking position on the sweeping option. But how often are Brandon Wakeham and Luke Brooks going to execute their roles perfectly to create an overlap for Adam Doueihi? I don't think many, if any.
Their sweeps are so clunky. First 2 weeks, very clunky sweeps.
And you change your number 1, you change your number 6. Is it going to get better? It's not going to get better. The thing I was excited for Dewey this year was that he was going to have John Bateman and Isaiah Papali'i as his edge back rowers, but as a fullback, it doesn't benefit him anymore. Like, he might get the odd offload into space if he starts running some lines, but yeah, look, I'm not high on Dewey at all. I mean, I think we can jump right into who you're going to replace Dewey with, because if you're looking
just one thing I wanted to add, Longy, before we go into that is it could get worse. He could not do well at fullback and then get moved to center, which is a real dead man position. It's like tight end in the NFL. If you're playing at center in fantasy, that's actually gross. So it could get worse from here.
He's the only man in the league who has like a list of positions that he gets demoted through. Like, no one else gets this, It's not like Dylan Brown's getting moved to center when he plays bad or something like that. Bad memories. But hey, look, let's look at these replacements here, because you can go up or down with Dewey. So at the $750,000, we've got 5 guys here that are higher in price than him, and then 6 guys here higher in price, and then a bunch of guys lower in price that you can move to as well. We're just going to pound through these pretty quickly, except for the ones that need a bit of detail. So look, Nicho Hynes first. Nicho Hynes has a bye pretty soon. He's coming back from injury this week. Sharks fixtures aren't bad. St George is a nice one to come into, but at nearly $1 million, I'd rather wait and see. You agreeing with that?
He's on my list to potentially buy this week. Like, he has, like you said, Dragons and then Warriors, and he has come out of the blocks at the start of the season, the All-Stars game, with a 75 score. So he's the type of guy who can score in every position, and he's a good captaincy option. They need him this week. So, look, I don't hate it. Yeah, he's got to buy into, after 2 rounds, but hell, I don't really want to plan around buys here because you're going to lose a player every week. So, an option.
I'd rather save, for Cleary, because you get Cleary at $100,000 cheaper in a couple of weeks' time. So I'd rather go Cleary personally, and he's at 902,000 right now. He's got a very high break even. He'll probably be in that sort of conversation where Munster and Trey Evans are, in that high 800s, maybe even mid 800s if he struggles. Look, a game against Parramatta, he got sent off in that game last year, so we'll see what happens there. Trey Evans, any thoughts?
Yeah, the thing I like about Cherry Evans and Cleary is they both have their bye, so you've got a long runway out of them. Cherry Evans is a guy I love. Like, he just gets a bit of disrespect every year. He's not that exciting. Not many people like him in real life, but this guy's going to average 60 plus again this year. He's like Damien Cook. There's no love for these guys because they're just 60 every year, 60, 65. Hey, he's great. He's a top 3 half. Like, at the end of the year, you want Hynes, Cleary, and Cherry Evans as your halves. So if you can get him in now, why not?
Yeah. No, he's solid as. Then Munster at 862. I'm not high on him as an option there. He's coming back from injury. It's not a bad injury per se, like the finger, but I just don't like his scoring profile as much as a Cleary or a Trey Evans. Just not as dominant as those guys as far as how he plays. So I would skip on Munster. Then Moses. Look, we're both Parramatta fans, but Moses, do you like Moses here, or would you prefer Reynolds?
I think Moses and Reynolds, and they're pretty much like, even Jerome Hughes there. They're great, but they're never going to be in that Cleary, DC, Hynes level where they're taking over and averaging 75. Like, they're 50 to 52, 53 point scorers who, when they get hot, can average closer to 60. Whereas the guys in the top tier, the reason they're in the top tier is when they get hot, they're averaging 70, 75. So if I'm spending big money, like, I don't want a guy who I'll have to upgrade again, and I don't see any of these guys as end game keepers, so pass on them for me.
Yep, I agree with that. We've talked about Hughes ad nauseum. Munster's back, which hurts his scoring. Shaun O'Sullivan, he's averaged 49 so far. The Dolphins have played about as well as they can. They got a tough game this week. I'm steering clear of Shaun. Dylan Brown is interesting. He's had about 160 and 190 meters running in the last 2 weeks. He doesn't kick the ball much, but he's sort of there was a period, I think it was in round 2 at halftime. Someone must have talked to him because he went from being completely uninvolved that first half to the last 3 halves. He's just been in everything. So Dylan Brown's one of the guys that I'm actually really considering here at $700,000.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And the one thing I will note for those who aren't as familiar with Parramatta is that Dylan Brown's touches compared to Moses has gone up a lot this year compared to last year. It's closer to 50-50 versus previously it was very skewed towards Moses. Dylan Brown, he's lost 51K, so you're getting on a 51 discount to the start of the year. And he's also a guy that can get hot real quick. Like, he can score a bunch of 80-plus scores in a row. And I think with Parra starting season 0-3, he's going to really have to step up. So I don't mind it. Again, I'm not sure if it fits into the top 3. Like, in a world where he gets one of those hot runs and he's just getting a lot of attacking stats, he could be, but probably will skip for me.
But as an overall scorer, he's got no buys until round 16. He's a guy that very, very, very rarely gets injured. He's got a very solid base. I don't hate him as a squad member, as a guy that you just stick into your 17. You don't think about it. Maybe you make a move on him in round 15 to grab someone else. Maybe I'm not sure what Nicho Hynes' buys are like, but maybe that's when I look at Hynes. Or I think I'm pretty happy as a squad.
Yeah, look, I preferred Brown to the guys mentioned before, like Adam Reynolds, Moses, Hughes. I think Brown has the highest runway to make quick money.
Yeah,
like they started the season at the same price, so
yeah, big time. Sammy Walker, he has his bye this week. I'd steer clear. He's playing pretty good footy, but the Roosters are looking a little dodgy. Fogarty, I'll talk on Fogarty, then I'll give you Shaun Johnson, because these guys are priced at the same level, and I think we're on different sides of this one. Fogarty's come down $77,000 this year. Johnson's gone up $84,000. So there was about $150,000 difference starting the year. Fogarty's gone back to a 55 score. He goal kicks for Canberra. He does most of the general play kicking. And if they're playing reasonably decent footy, he scores well. I wouldn't be buying Fogarty, but there's an argument to be made that he's being a bit disrespected as an option here when people are sort of leaning really hard into Shaun Johnson. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to get Fogarty, but he's not the worst option in this bracket of guys below $650,000.
Yeah, look, you're 100% right. It's really two different halves of the coin here. Like Fogs started high and falling down, and Johnson started low and he's going up. Look, I think Shaun Johnson's copying a lot of interest right now, and I think deservedly so. He started with like a 58 average this year. Warriors looked a lot better, and he's averaging 58 without a try or too many assists or line break assists, etc. So his base stats look pretty good at the moment. The one thing is, I was very high on him until about yesterday when I looked at his historical stats over the last year or so. And he had periods where he was scoring exactly like this, like averaging 58, 59, 60 across 3 to 4 games. And it was just purely off base stats. But then there's like games where he makes like 8 or 9 missed tackles, just not as many tackles. But instead of 500 kick meters, 300, and it comes to 20. And that's really why his average was below the top tiers last year. I think he's a decent buy. I would take Shaun Johnson over Fog, but that's just personal preference. Like, I'd rather watch Johnson than Fogarty in real life. So maybe that's a stupid way to look at it, but honestly, flip a coin otherwise. But yeah, look, I probably won't be going either of them. I like a name a bit further down this list, which we'll get to.
Yeah, to be transparent, I'd probably go Johnson too. And yeah, back-to-back 500 kick meter plus games. He's not the worst. I mean, it could work out, but it is risky. It's more risky than people are saying. Look, Ben Hunt, 22 last week. He was a bit of a ghost in that game. Not keen. Even that game where he went well in round 2, Dragons' first game, he had that try. I think he had 9 or 10 points in base stats when you took away the negatives. So I'm not keen on him. Brimson, just interrupt me on any of these, but Brimson, nah, not at half. Whiten, perennial sort of mid-ranger. He's not going to go on that run again. Matty Burton.
This is the guy. If I was going for a guy at this range, I'd be going Matty Burton. He's already lost 110K. Bulldogs look a lot better. I think you got to remember, every gun player has lulls through the season. Like even Cleary, Hynes, etc. They'll have a couple of weeks where they're down low. Burton showed that he can average 55, and he's an upcoming player. Like Fog and Shaun Johnson, they're at like the twilight of their careers. Like they're not getting better, whereas Burton can only get better week in, week out. 11% ownership, so he's a bit of a pod. If I had to downgrade Dewey, and I'm looking at that 6 to 650K mark, yeah, I'm 100% choosing Burton over the others.
Yeah, Burton's juicy. I mean, even let's look at his stats here because we can sort of see the trend so far. Like those first 2 games, he was pretty uncharacteristic in a bunch of missed tackles. So 6 and 5 missed tackles. Went back to a bit more normal with none and more tackle breaks instead. The big thing that stood out for me here was the run meters. So 46 and 25 run meters were not Matt Burton lines. 141 run meters is a Matt Burton line. I think what you'd expect is about an average of 100 with those pop-off sort of runs that he can make as well. So, yeah Burton's not bad at all. And at that price, very little risk baked into him.
The only thing about him is I just want to figure out what happened as to why he lost goals to Flanagan and he lost a bit of general play kicking. I mean, if he got 59 last week, if he was kicking goals, he probably scores close to 70. So if he gets that back, I'll definitely be looking at him. He's almost a guy who can definitely average closer to 60 than 50.
And there's one other guy that you were keen to talk about here.
Yeah, look, it's a bit disgusting. Brandon Wakeham. And the reason I say it's disgusting is he's never really held a spot. He's actually averaged 39 odd when playing half or 5/8 for 80 minutes. Look, I don't love it. He's a guy that could just lose his spot any second. Like we're talking about Dewey going back to center potentially, but Dewey could also easily go back to 6 with Wakeham just straight back out of the side. Because I know he looked great in the 30 minutes he played on the weekend, but he has not been that impressive over his NRL career. Like I'd love it if he turns it around. It's always great to see young players do well, but look, he's a guy that's probably the only good cheap half at the moment. And when I say good, I mean he'll probably score you 35, 40. How long is he going to be there? I've got no idea. Like, Laurie could go back to fullback and then someone else to the halves. So I wouldn't get him, but he is an option if you're feeling a bit risky because he could score you 40 points at 350K.
Okay, I'll throw a question at you. Just to finish this off. $352,000. Would you rather buy Brandon Wakeham or Tamari Martin if you had neither?
Wakeham. And the reason for that is Wakeham could get you to 500k pretty quickly. Timmer Martin is maybe
not. Wakeham of Martin. But look, that's our look at the alternatives to Adam Doueihi. Look, we're both hard sells on Adam Doueihi, so let us know in the comments who you think you're going to buy for Adam Doueihi, or if you were smart enough not to buy him because you anticipated a round 3 move to fullback. Anyway, we'll see you on the next one. We did our full buy, hold, sell previews, so I'll pop that link in the descriptions. Otherwise, comment your trades and we'll